Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches. We are on day 21 and we have this beautiful sketch that has all these triangles, and I apologize, I cannot read on the sketch who it's by. It does look like it's like from 2013, but other than that I can't really read the name on it. So my apologies for that. But it is a very cool sketch. It's got all of these triangles, and a little secret, triangles are my nemesis. I have such a hard time with them, but here we go. So we'll see what happens. I started out with these 3 pieces of paper. I cut them 5.5 by 5.5 in 5.5 inch squares, and then I'm just cutting a triangle out of them. I'm not sure if there's a better way to make an isosceles triangle than doing it this way, but for me this is what works. I just made a fold at the halfway point on one side and then go from corner to the fold, and then do that again from the opposite corner. So that is the easiest way that I can think of to make it. I'm sure there's probably some other way, somebody who probably knows way more about geometry and math than I do, but that is the simplest, fastest way I could think of. So that's what I did. And then I just obviously copied it with the other 2 as well. So now in the sketch there are 3 photos that are the same size and 1 that is slightly larger, and that worked out well because I have 4 photos of the girls doing makeovers, or facials actually, and they did these on each other, and they used a lot of ingredients like from the kitchen, which like avocado and berries and oatmeal, and I don't even know what else, cucumbers obviously, there's one girl with cucumbers on her face, and so they did those to each other. And so the largest photo is my daughter. The other photos are my niece and 2 of the other Girl Scouts. Now these girls are all adults and grown now, so I'm not too worried about them being in this video. And not to mention you can't see their faces that great because they're covered in masks. Anyway, so they are basically having a Girl Scout sleepover type deal, and we did mani-pedis. If you watched yesterday's video, you would have seen that. And then on this particular uh, at this particular time they were doing facials, and these are all from the same event. So what I did is I'm using the same papers for both layouts, and they will be side by side in the album. Now they're not necessarily a double page spread because they are different sketches and different shapes and everything, but they're both very geometric. Talking about yesterday's sketch and today's. And so what I thought I would do is just make them match so that they can go side by side in the album, because they're from the very same day. They're doing the same things, and so that worked out. Now what I did here is I cut a rectangle out of my paper, and then I did the same thing where I folded it in half and found the center point on one end, and then cut to the corners on the other side so that I would have some triangles. And these are smaller triangles to imitate the downward arrows on the left hand side of that sketch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a strip of white paper, and you're going to see me do this in just a few seconds here. But I'm going to cut a strip of white paper, put adhesive on it, and then I'm going to lay it on my desk where my mat is that has all of the grid lines. And then I am going to use those grid lines as a indicator of where each triangle should go. And so what I'll do is I will count 3 squares in between the where I put each of the triangles, and that will make it so that they are all the same distance apart. Now that might not be a big deal to you. You may not care if they're equally spaced, and a lot of people wouldn't, but sometimes in these geometric ones I feel like they really need to be like lined up. Maybe it's the type A part of me. I'm not type A in a lot of things, but this might be one of them. I'm not really sure. So, and then I do want the tips of the arrows on top of the arrow below it rather than under, so that's why I just flipped those around. Now here I go with that white strip. I'm going to go ahead and just put some adhesive down, and you can see me line it up there, and I'm going to line that bottom arrow up with the grid, and then I'm going to count 3 squares up. and I'm three of the, it would make them like an inch and a half apart. So 3/2 inches apart. So hopefully that made some sense. And anyway, it makes it all nice and lined up. The arrows aren't wonky, they're not off center, and I like how it looks. And now I can move the whole thing around because it's all one piece and it works out well. Although I did forget to ink them. So I'm going to go back and ink them, and that is exactly what I did on yesterday's layout as well, as I inked all of my pieces of paper. And again, because this is a very geometric looking layout, I decided to just keep it on white paper rather than putting it on pattern paper. And plus, my papers are super busy. I could have done some mixed media underneath, but I decided not even to do that. I didn't really want to wait for mixed media to dry. I am going to add a little bit of inking through a stencil here in a bit, just like I did on yesterday's layout, but I'm using a different stencil. And I'm just carrying over the same techniques as yesterday because, like I said, they're going to be side by side. I want them to have kind of a similar feel. I'm just going to glue the tips of those arrows down. And then I'm using the same black alphas that I used yesterday, and that is not by design because I wanted them necessarily to match. It is because most of my black alphas do not have A's and E's, and so I needed to find ones that definitely had A's and E's because the words fancy facials has 3 A's in it. So that is a big part of the reason why. Now, I really like using my centering ruler to put my alphas down. I do have the thicker alignment rulers, but I always use the centering ruler. It's just easier for me to read. It's got a straight line across it where I can just line it up easy. And you can definitely find the center of the layout with it if you need it, so that works too. It's probably the most used ruler in my caddy. So you saw I played with the idea of putting the title on top of those arrows, but in the end I just like them right here next to the photos, and I thought that looks nice. And then I am going to go ahead and do some of that stencil work like I mentioned. I do have a piece of paper over that pink paper, but you can't see it because it's pink as well. And so I'm just using that as a mask to mask off the area so I don't get any ink on the photos or on the other papers that are on the layout. And I like how that's looking, and I'm just going to really lightly brush in some over here on the edge. And I like how that looks. It's just a little added extra detail, kind of fun. And then of course I'm going to cut the edges off and back the whole thing in black because, you know, that's what I do. I really like it backed in black, or navy blue depending on what I'm working on, but I definitely, when there's white paper involved, I really like to have a frame around it, or and that frame could be a sketchy doodle, or it could be a stitching, you know, anything like that would work. Inking, but I like the way that it finishes off the layout. Now I went to the 3x4 cards out of this paper. The paper is from Damask Love, and they are from 2 different collections. Those lips, I believe, are from Girl Power, and then some of those other papers are from Right Home. And so I'm going to pull those out, and I really like that one that says yes girl yes and looking good. And you know, I just thought, when am I ever going to use this paper that has all of these lips that say stuff like Supergirl and love yourself and that kind of stuff? Probably never, except maybe in these particular cases where they're doing self-care type items and they're a bunch of young girls doing it. Um, so I thought that was fun. I just fussy cut those out, and I'm going to go ahead and ink them up. While I'm doing that, let me remind you to check out everybody else who's playing along with Christy's Beautiful Life and 30 Days of Sketches. The links are down below in my description box, and don't forget that there is a Facebook page that you can join if you would like, and you can see all kinds of inspiration for not just Series 7, but the 6 prior series as well. So you will have tons of sketches to pull inspiration from, and tons of inspiration from all of the layouts that are being done based on those sketches. All of those links are in my description box down below, so go and check them out, and don't forget to check Christy out on her channel and give her a little bit of love. So we are currently on day 21, and we just have 9 more days to go, and we will be done with this series for a little while. But there's going to be a lot of other inspiration coming on my channel, and I know Christy's always got inspiration on her channels, and so do all of the other people playing along. So go check out everybody and enjoy. Okay, so I'm popping this stuff up onto some foam tape. Now that white foam tape that I've got there, that is really thin. It's like half the thickness of the fun foam that you get at Walmart, and it's super sticky. And I wanted that to be a little bit less lifted than this piece that I'm putting on now. And so that's why I'm using 2 different kinds of foam, is because I want a little added dimension to some pieces and less dimension to the others. So I thought I would just go ahead and stack up these speech bubbles. Speech bubbles isn't something that I use super often, but I thought it worked really well in this particular case. I also like the roundness to the speech bubbles because everything is so linear and straight on this. All of the lines for the triangles are straight, the squares are straight. I just needed something a little softer to soften it up, and I found that the circles and the lips actually added to that quite nicely. And I'm just going to finish this thing off with a few enamel dots, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of put them in. They look like, I don't know, little speech bubbles going up. But so I'm going to go ahead and use those in the bright pink, and then I'm going to use up those little tiny black ones as well. And I'm going to add a little bit of journaling, and that will pretty much do it. There's not going to be a whole lot more to this layout. I'm just trying to decide if I really want to use those black ones, and I decide, yep, I'm going to go ahead and use them. I want to get them used up. And these are all matte finish enamel dots, and they are from Gina Marie, I believe. So check out Gina Marie and her enamel dots, and she sells them really inexpensively, and they are good quality, and I really love the matte ones. So here's where I'm going to put my little bit of journaling, just talking about what the girls are doing. They raided the kitchen and made up their own masks, and that's pretty much the end of it. I hope you enjoy this video. I'll see you guys tomorrow.